Hello Voyage, so I'm making a video here just to update all of our new people on the campaign so far. We had a Google Doc floating around, but I think this is a much more efficient way of doing this. So I'm just going to run you through what's happened in the campaign so far. Hopefully this will be, maybe 10 minutes long at most. I don't want to bore you, but I want you to get the key details so you can jump in kind of with a background. So we started here outside of Silvermoon, and this is kind of where everyone gathered up to kind of hear about the mission. The mission was to take Tau and Tui to Pandaren from Silvermoon all the way down to Booty Bay using no magic, no teleporting, no anything, simply walking there. So the party began its journey. We had about 20, probably 22 people strong, and we began our journey going down this way. Of course, no flying in this zone, else I'd speed up to where we were going to make this shorter, but no flying, so thank you, Blizzard. So our first event began right up here. You'll see there's a wagon, and we found a broken down wagon and a murdered person. The party decided to ransack the wagon for its good, and Artix, our resident explosive goblin, went ahead and blew up the corpse. So that was wonderful. They did find some supplies and some mementos on the elf. We continued along, and our first night began up here. So we will have day and night cycles where we're camping some days. Some days we go out and do things, hunt for supplies, all that sort of stuff. So we made it past there, and we ended our first night right up here on the Fairbreeze Village, where everyone kind of got to know each other. They found out that Tau and Tui were ex-Shadowpan, and that's who we're running from, and we had our first confrontation with the Shadowpan that ended fairly ugly, where the Shadowpan walked away very suspicious of the party. So that was a very bad night. We continued on the next day. We decided the safest way for some reason was to go through the Dead Scar with our broken wagon so that we could get fastest down to the Ghostlands. So as we traveled through here, the wagon did break down. Fight ensued against the undead, and the wagon was fixed by Artix for some reason. And we did go through that fight with minor injuries. Tui became sick from that fight, and a couple other people got minor scrapes or bruises, nothing serious. We ended up our first night down here. We stayed in this building you can see over here. There was a well, we refreshed. We spent quite a few nights, actually, I think 2 nights, talking and free RPing, kind of getting to know each other in there. We also ran into a blood elf here who ended up telling us basically that the elf that before that we blew up was her husband. We accepted her into one of the character Fallujah's family, gave her some of her supplies, and left her on her way so that she could survive with her kids. Some of the party members did not agree with that, of course, so a little bit of a fight ensued there. Here's where we ran into Vaden, but Vaden is not in this RP anymore, so you don't need to worry about that landmark event. And we pushed on quickly to meet our new recruits. We brought in our first wave of new hires for Voyage, and all the new people RPing here at Tranquillion. We met up with them, talked to them, got them into the party, got them caught up to speed, and then we moved down south towards the Howling Ziggurat, and that's where we had our second big confrontation with a old man who was, or an undead, who was very unhappy with the party for trespassing on his land. Also, quick note, we captured some Draenei somewhere along the way, and Alex decided to free them. So there are 2 Draenei that we captured and decided to let go. We did briefly see them at the Howling Ziggurat as well, but it is unknown whether they are friendly or unfriendly, or what their role will be going forward. So we fought this undead dude here. He made us all have some nightmares. A lot of character building happened and talking through that event, and we decided to crash up here in this building, the Andilian estate, and we stayed there for far too long, but basically the gist of it was we hunted and gathered to try and recoup some supplies, get people from being sick. There was some bathing and some building of characters and yada yada yada. To note, there was a big conflict here against one of our members who did go out on their own and contact the Shadowpan. Some information was traded, and it was their belief that the Shadowpan may actually help the group from there. However, general consensus from the group was hostility towards these actions. Once we finally did get through all that, we moved on our way um, into the Plague Lands. so that's where we'll finally be able to fly, so I'll try and get us there quickly. Oh, ground mounts move so slowly, but we're almost there. Nothing of real note happened here. We spent far too long at the estate, so we decided to kind of really push on as quickly as we could, um, just to get a change of scenery, move ahead. We did send Artix and a group of a few others to scout ahead, and it was made clear that there was a war party, a very large one, ahead of us. However, when we got to the Plague Lands, we'll see in just a moment, we did find they were all massacred by a massive mob of the undead and Scourge. So that was kind of the main focal point of that event was, oh no, there's a bunch of Scourge, what are we going to do? Now, the camp was looted and raided, there wasn't much there, nothing of too much interest. However, along this journey, there has been someone telling us to return the stone, and as long as the stone is held, there's been massive bad luck for the party. The party is still dealing with that. So from here, I'm going to fly so we can move a little bit quicker. We did move down to this tower first, kind of talked and got our bearings and decided that we can either go through the mountains or through Corn's Crossing. The party did decide the better route would be to go through Corn's Crossing. So we went down this path here, through this road. These mountains, there was a rock size went through there. Bad luck again. Return the stone. That was being touched on there, and then there was Light's Hope Chapel. That'll come into play a little bit later. But essentially, we went through this bridge, and it collapsed, so there was no going back, and that is where we camped for the following night in this area here. From there, we moved forward into Corn's Crossing, and it was discovered that there was a Death Knight who was holding that horde of undead, and the party decided to engage him. There was a fight. The Death Knight did die rather and suspiciously quickly. However, the party decided it was best not to think about it and to just move on. However, at this point, Artix's negligence did cause the cart full of supplies to explode, and the party lost all supplies at this point, which caused another fight where some party members did decide to branch off, and they left for Light's Hope Chapel, never to be seen again. So they pressed on, weary and without supplies, to the Crown Guard Tower. An old man there was nice enough to let them stay. He fed and clothed them and said that he could give them more supplies if they're willing to help in a fight in Anderhall over here, rather than going through the water and skipping the Plague Lands to move on more quickly. The party did decide that the most urgent thing was to replace the cart and get the supplies. So we did go ahead and agree that we would help him in exchange for those supplies, so we went on our merry way. Now, there was one more event that happened in the Plague Lands. There was some weather and stuff that happened, raining blood and cool shit, but you weren't here, so you don't get to experience that, so fuck you. So, the last event that happened here happened along this road. There was a goblin merchant who was traveling with a very large caravan of supplies, and he offered to sell them to the group at a very high price that no one could afford. Tui decided it would be best to mercilessly stab and murder the goblin and take his stuff, and they pressed on from there. Now, at that point, some party members disagreed with that action and did leave the campaign as well. So we have lost a couple members along this way, and some stories and relationships are brewing. We did push into the the Western Plague Lands, and there were some grumblings about Tui's actions still. We did decide to camp our first night for a little bit just up ahead in the clearing. That's where the party members who disagreed with her actions fully left, but they decided they couldn't concern themselves with it. They're still in danger and decided to press on to Anderhall. So we will go up to Anderhall next, and that'll catch you up to where we are, kind of the events that have been happening. And I got a little bit of spiel after that. I know it's been almost 10 minutes. I know we're running low on time, so we'll try and wrap it up quickly. So Anderhall is where we are at now, so we don't know what's going to happen there quite yet. However, the party did stop about here on the road looking into Anderhall and saw a massive fight brewing, and there was some doubts on whether or not they made the decision that was right to go in here and fight with the crusade against all the undead. So that gets you up to pace. That's what's going on, and I'll try and make another one of these to update some information here. here soon. As for some other quick notes, we do have a wagon again, so they are still fighting the supplies and all that for hunting and gathering water. It hasn't been a big focus, but now that we're down to a smaller group, we started with 20 and now we're more around 9 to 12, so much more manageable. We may move back into that to increase the difficulty of the campaign. Our next recruits should be joining us down here around Uther's Tomb. There's also a couple who may be joining us here at Terran Mill. So if you're a new person, you can join us at either of those locations. Just tell us which one you want to be in, and we'll have you jump in at that point, and we can write you in no problem. So as always, thanks for joining my videos and watching them, and give some feedback. Tell me what you want to see, what you don't want to see. This is something that we do want to make a constant thing to help update members with. We will have them posted on our Facebook and in the Voyage YouTube section as well. So happy trails, everyone.